A brand new Sonic racing game is headed to the next generation consoles soon, and it's called Sonic Crossworlds. This game is, well, it's certainly a game, and it's certainly happening. They released some test demos recently, and it looks just like one of those new age Sonic and Sega All-Stars racing games that must be profitable because we get a new one every 2 or 3 years. I am but a meager Nintendo lover and only have a Nintendo Switch and not an Xbox or a PlayStation, so I did not get a chance to play the demo. However, I watched a lot of footage from it, and it looks really busy. To put it bluntly, it kind of looks like a mess, smushed together mashup of past mechanics that work for Sonic racing games melded into a new one. With a title like Crossworlds, yeah, that tracks. Does it look like a game I'm going to rush out and buy? No. And that's because it looks like another Sonic racing game where everyone is in cars. What's up? I'm NickVez, big time Sonic fan since birth. That's delicious. And is it weird to anybody else that these Sonic racing games are never Sonic and Friends racing on foot? You know, I mean, he's like the fastest thing alive. That's kind of like his whole thing. And all the characters are fast, so it just makes sense to me for them to be running on foot. You know, like an old school cross-country Sonic race. I'd buy that game. Sonic cross-country meet? You make a mascot kart racer where everyone is running and not in carts, and it instantly makes it a unique racing game that separates itself from the competition because everyone is running. It forces you to change the mechanics of your regular racing game and gives us something that would stand on its own. Sega did make a Sonic racing game like this. It was called Sonic R. See, the R stands for racing. I wasn't around for the Sega Saturn era, so I can't speak on how this game was to that generation. But when I got my hands on it in 2005 through Sonic Gem Collections, oh man, did I love it. I felt so seen, you know? All throughout elementary school and middle school, I was always pitching this Sonic racing game where they were running on foot, and it was this really fun battle through all of the Sonic terrains, the casino and whatnot. And then to find out the game exists. And not only does it exist, but it has characters like Tails Doll and Metal Knuckles. Yeah, this game rocks! Let me help you out here. If you don't know Sonic R, you probably know its soundtrack. Everybody supersonic racing, try to keep your feet right on the ground. When you're supersonic racing, there's no time to look around. I discovered Sonic R, it was the same time I was in computer class. Just saying that out loud shows you how old I am. I would type the lyrics of this song to demonstrate that I was a fast typer to impress girls. To this day, whenever I don't know what to type on the computer and I need to look busy, if you look at my screen, I'm going to be typing, everybody supersonic racing. It's just one of the 100 ways Sonic is deeply a part of my life, for better or for worse. We later find out when you remove my childhood brain from the equation that Sonic R does not in fact rule. This game is a mess. The mechanics, they are so flawed. It feels like you're trying to turn a ship in the ocean when you have to go against the character's momentum and turn left or right. Any movement at all, it is such a huge delay from controller to character. It's probably the clunkiest racing game I've ever played. I will stand my ground here though. The idea of a Sonic racing game where they're actually racing on foot is such a good idea, and while we never got a true successor to Sonic R, where everybody's racing on foot, Sega kind of walked backwards into a cool concept that follows this formula. They made a Sonic racing game with a unique mechanic, so it wasn't just another kart racer, that tapped into their knowledge of the zeitgeist in the early aughts, made a very stylish, very fun Sonic racing game, which brings us to today's topic, Sonic Riders. Let's get into it, man. Let's play it. Let's boot this baby up. Let's find out why Sonic Riders is such a breath of fresh air for the racing genre. Is it up there with Double Dash? Well, we're going to get into that later, but right now, let's just see what this baby has to offer. What did they put in these Sonic songs around this time? Seriously, I need to know. It doesn't matter the genre. These songs brought the thunder. All of Sonic R's songs, legit all of them, they're all soul and R&B jams, and they're so rad, regardless if they make sense in a racing game. And then you enter into the Gamecube era, a time where music was about revolting and being strong-willed in your beliefs. And they gave us City Escape, I Am All of Me, Live and Learn. Not only are these songs existing so perfectly in the time of American culture that they were released, but they fit thematically in the games they're from stupendously. I Am All of Me is the theme of Shadow the Hedgehog. It embodies the character's anger and aggression in a way only music can find. Then you go into Sonic Heroes, and each team gets a theme song? Team Chaotic Sonic Heroes, what's your problem, please? Okay, I'll stop. Wait, just 3 more. Fire, fire. That's a great one. The Knuckles pumpkin rap. Don't even get me started with I am the Eggman. It's like that Lady Gaga meme where she's like, club, club, another club, another club. It's just banger after banger, and the theme for Riders is no exception. Everything about the intro rules, the cell shading style, the little story it tells about helping your friends being the most powerful thing you can do, the song itself, the lyrics kind of being less in your face, taking a back seat to the great melody, the great sound that fits so well with the game. Once again, Sonic Team gives us a 10 out of 10 song. No notes, as Sonic would say. But back on Riders, like the actual game itself, what Riders does so well to stand out from other mascot racing games is the hoverboards, or the extreme gears, as they're referred to in-game. And let's just address the elephant in the room here, guys. They're hoverboards. Why are we giving them a different name? I know you're all about being cool, Sonic Team, but the name hoverboards is like skateboards but cooler. Extreme gear? Well, okay, whatever. It's fine. I just don't see the need to change it from hoverboards, but change it they did, and now I have to be the smart aleck that corrects everybody when someone brings up the Sonic hoverboard game. Actually, it's Extreme Gear, and the name of the game is Sonic Riders. Let's get into it. I've been talking about the uniqueness for far too long. Time to show you what I mean. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty here, the meat and potatoes as to why this is such an underrated classic, he said with zero irony in his voice. Full disclosure. There are a lot of balls in the air. You're going to fall down and stumble the first time you pick this up. However, I do think the controls are instinctive to players that play racing games. There's just a lot of factors that go into having a good race. It's similar to Diddy Kong Racing, which, as we all know, is one of the upper echelon mascot kart racers. I would put this up there as well, much like Diddy Kong Racing. Once you know what you're doing, you start releasing A before you go over a boost. You feel unstoppable and you start to glide through these levels that are also well crafted for the style of racing presented. Before you actually get started, they really thought out how to make every part of the race unique, besides just waiting to get started and hitting A at the moment of go. You can try and run out of the gate at exactly 0.00 to get the best possible start. If you mess up, you get zapped and start behind everybody else. As you can see, I'm not that good at this. I never quite figured out how to get the timing right, but I applaud them for trying to alter everything about the genre and make these creative choices that are going to add to the overall experience. So no need to press A to go. You just go. Right out of the gate, you're moving and you're grooving, and it's a ballsy move not to have a gas button, but if your closest emulation is a snowboarding game, it makes sense, because in those games you're going just downhill. Here you're really just going straight, but there's no gas. You are going from the jump. So on the bottom right of your screen, you'll see the boost gauge. Not sure if that's what it's called, but I'm gonna have to start labeling things in order to explain this. This is the whole bread and butter of the extreme gear mechanic. If you understand the gauge, you understand the game. You use it for boosts, and there are a lot of ways to fill it up, but if it hits 0, your character will have to stop using the board and run on their feet, which makes for some funny animations. But it is the most vulnerable you will be in the game if you start running. When you're running, you really are up the creek without a paddle. Your speed decreases immensely, and you need to find a way to get back on that board. Having a filled gauge is essential, as it helps with your turning, and if you have a lot in your gauge, you can press B at any point to get a great boost, basically a mushroom in Mario, whenever you want. And you can fill this gauge by performing tricks, stopping at a pit stop, or using your special ability. But you have to keep an eye on this gauge, because boosting, turning, or even just riding at all will decrease your gauge and force you to run, and the running will destroy your race, as I alluded to earlier. If you hit B right around somebody using your boost and you get close enough to them, you will knock them off their board for a second, basically like hitting them with a shell. So it's a good way to
use that boost around people so you can run into them and knock them off their course. And before we touch on these special abilities, the tricks are really intuitive. You just move up and down, left or right to make your character do some moves in the air. And the more you can pull off, the more the gauge fills. But if you mess up, no gauge filling rewarded to you at all. You hold A to slow down, then you release it at the jump pad to get the most air possible. Sometimes the air will slow you down, so knowing if you'd rather fill your gauge or just speed through the jump is also important. That's what I love about this game. It's always giving you options on the best way to accomplish your goal. Maybe you really need to fill your gauge here, so do the big jump. Or maybe you just want to get to the end, so you hit B before the jump, so you just go past it as quick as possible. Back to the alternate methods of filling this gauge, each character is one of 3 classes: speed, flying, or power. Speed characters can grind their boards on pipes around the area, flying characters can fly through rings, and power characters can just punch hazards and walls, sometimes creating their own paths by doing so. When you perform these actions, it fills up your gauge, which is awesome because it's a great way to pick up some juice for your gauge if you need it. And trust me, you're going to constantly need it. I said it once, I'll say it again. The name of the game is filling up that gauge, because when it's filled, the sky's the limit. You can make quicker turns, you can hit boosts faster, you can knock people over. Getting that gauge to a comfortable spot is huge. And here's the best part. You can make your gauge bigger by collecting rings that are scattered around the course, which is immensely helpful because, like I was just saying, the gauge is the name of the game. If you get past 30 rings, you're on level 2 and your gauge is bigger. And if you get past 60 rings, you're maxed out and your gauge is the highest it can be. If you fall off at all, you're back at level 1. And you can use R to rip sharper turns, but that too lowers your gauge, so you have to be mindful. And what's crazy is, I haven't even told you the best part. The best part of this game that keeps it very competitive is the momentum. If you're killing it, you're just ripping through the stage, your character starts to build the momentum, and you'll hear somebody on the loudspeaker say, "Jet is building the momentum." Basically, it allows others behind you to catch your sick waves, so they hop on your airwave and make it easier for them to catch up to you. If you're running and you're off your board and you see a momentum, get on that momentum because you can perform tricks on the side of it, and in the momentum, you are never running. You're instantly back on your board. So it's a really fun and interesting way to bring characters far behind back up to the front, because they are now riding the exact path that the one player found to go this fast, and it gives you a boost while you're on it. It's a really good balancer, and it makes the competition always super fun. Okay, did you get all that? I know it's a lot, but that's what makes it so fun. Basically, everything you do uses your gauge, so you're constantly fighting the gauge level while you're trying to get to the front of the pack and catching the momentum to reach the number 1 spot. It's hectic, but once you get the hang of it, there is nothing else like it, and it keeps having you coming back for more. So it's a Sonic game, and it's a Sonic racing game, so it's very obvious that this game's main competition was and always will be Mario Kart Double Dash. And while Double Dash is certainly an amazing game, Sonic Riders doesn't exactly rival that game. Instead, it offers another type of racing game to play. Sure, they're both 3-lap races with Mario and Sonic, but they're almost 2 completely different games, and they're hard to compare. It's less of, this one is better situation, and more of a sick 2 cakes vibe, if you catch my drift. This is the niche these Sonic racing games need to find and lock onto. Think of it this way. Mascot kart racers are like gorillas, but Mario Kart is King Kong. No regular gorilla is competing with King Kong, but if you want to swing alongside him, you may have a chance to feel just as mighty.
You like that analogy? Thanks, I just made it up.
Basically, this is what makes me so upset about Crossworlds. Why are the Sonic characters just in cars? You already made a great Sonic racing game that is unique. The Extreme Gear makes this a game that allows it to stand on its own, and yet you're trying to go after the Mario Kart market. It's so frustrating to watch Sega continue to make these missteps, especially in the new golden age of the character. And like, I know Extreme Gear exists inside of Crossworlds, but it looks more of like an afterthought. It functionally cannot operate the same way it does in Riders, and it just leaves a lot to be desired.
Okay, enough negativity. Let's boot up the story mode and pretend like Sonic Riders is not a dead franchise. It is. Oh, it kinda is.
As far as the story goes, Sonic and friends are hanging in the city and they run into these birds who are all just the worst. I mean, no, they're actually pretty cool characters when you get down to it, but they really annoyed me as a kid because their behavior is very bully-like, especially the purple one to Tails. And to the surprise of no one, the birds are all really well designed. Sonic Team is always in their bag when it comes to bringing new characters to life. I've said it once and I'll say it again. The Sonic character designs truly are the backbone of the Sonic franchise. A real win from shoes to spikes. Kids see these guys and they see the big eyes and they want to play with anything associated with it. It worked on me as a kid and it's working on kids today. I babysat some kids last week and they loved Sonic, Shadow, all of them from the movies. Even Eggman. It's just peak character design. I wouldn't say Jet is peak, but I would give him an A as far as Sonic rivals go. Here, let's break down Sonic rivals real quick. Knuckles, the OG rival, I think he gets an A+. The red contrasts the blue really well, and the focus on his muscles while Sonic is speed. Very well done. Metal Sonic, a Robotnik-made rival, an obvious robo aesthetic. Sonic is about saving little wooden animals, and Metal is literally made of metal. Sonic is a wise mouth. Metal doesn't talk. Gonna give him another A+. Shadow, don't even have to say it. It's an obvious A+. And then you have Jet, who is green to Sonic's blue. He's snarky. He's like Sonic's voice, but more annoying.
Oh, be quiet!
He's spikier than Sonic with his bird feathers, plus he's supposed to be the fastest thing on Extreme Gear, while Sonic is the fastest thing alive. I'm gonna give him an A-. So I guess he's the worst of the Sonic rivals. But still, it's just a testament to how great all the Sonic character designs are. I love Jet, and I like to see more of him in future games. Then you have Storm and Wave, who are a good contrast to Tails and Knuckles. They really just are the mean versions of Sonic Team. Wave is the brain, Storm is the brawn, and I like how Storm can just be a big dumb guy, even dumber than Knuckles. Just a big oaf. It's a simple cliche, but it's easy to love. Story mode is always a great place to start for the one-player experience, so let's get into it. And just right off the bat, I don't love how there's a big budget cutscene that is like a movie-level cutscene that is unlike anything else that we see in the game. I don't understand why you do this. Now you have 3 varieties of cutscene. You have the cell shading, you have the movie level, and then after this we cut right into the 3D models. And it just looks disjointed to do that. The 3D models, though, they actually look great in the cutscenes. It's probably the best 3D models we have of the Sonic characters on the Gamecube. It's something about their proportions, they're stretched a little longer. It looks fantastic. So I wish they allocated that movie budget cutscene to something else in the game. The story goes, Eggman is having a race with extreme gears, and everyone needs a Chaos Emerald to enter the tournament because Sonic Team is basically unable to tell a story without the MacGuffin Emeralds. Also, why enter? Eggman is clearly going to steal the Emeralds from you once you enter into his race. Whatever. I'm not here to criticize the story. I'm just here to get the ball rolling. And if you don't know how to play all these mechanics, they seem really hard once you start this story because you're thrown right into the race, even after my excellent breakdown. But luckily, the game has tutorials for you, but like every kid, I skipped those and just went right into the story mode to figure out how to play, which, after laying all of those mechanics out a minute ago, I'm not sure how I was so good at this game at age 10. It feels like there's so much going on. All I had was a controller and a dream, and I'm sure I clocked somewhere between 250 to 300 hours for this beast of a game, so that helped. Speaking of beast of a game, that's not the correct way to describe this game because it's a really short story. We'll run through the story mode here in a minute, but I beat the hero story mode in under 2 hours, almost under 1. There's not much to it, it's just 6 courses to play, and the challenge level for me was super low, at least on the hero story side. I was destroying these guys every step of the way. There is a long post-game afterwards, which helps, but I wouldn't have hated a longer story structure because the post-game, which we'll get into, can be grueling. The story is actually quite fun. But getting back to the actual story at hand, after the first race is done, you figure out what you're really doing, you play the first level, which is a city, and let's just break down this level. It is really fun to race through this futuristic city. I would rank this very high as the first course you play in any racing game. You're thrown into the natural hustle and bustle of a New York City landscape, while also having to remember all those racing mechanics. It kind of reminds me of the Shadow the Hedgehog first level, where you're dropped into chaos, but the fact that this level is extremely brightly colored and has a nice blue sky helps the player feel more comfortable than Shadow, which drops you into chaos, but it's all bleak and dark and black. Everything is laid out really well here. There are signs before any special ability is present, which is consistent throughout the whole game, and it gives you a sense of what to expect. A tiny shortcut that will help you recharge the gauge and give you a boost if you choose to go down that special ability lane. It's a great start to the story model and the first level of the game. After that, we see the heroes in a jungle talking about the extreme gears, and Amy shows up because of course she does, because she just loves to fawn over Sonic. And I have a little Amy tangent here I'm going to go on to. Just humor me for a second, like 5 minutes here as I talk about Amy. If you don't want to, just skip ahead. Okay, 3 minutes tops. This is where Amy was still allowed to be a cute character who fawns over Sonic, and I'm really worried that the Sonic 4 movie is going to be a lot like what happens to Peach in the Mario movie, where Peach was like girl bossified, who doesn't need no Mario to rescue her. But there are iterations of Amy that have changed over time, like the way that they write her in Sonic Boom is great. But I always personally preferred Amy to be obsessed with Sonic, and he kind of runs away from her. I always thought that was a really cute dynamic. Maybe too cute, maybe I liked it too much as a kid. On the 4Kids X Sonic X forum in 2003, you could have found me on one of my many screen names, Son Aim Forever. And like, no one would have ever known that if I didn't say it here, but it did feel good to get it off my chest just now. Don't get me wrong, I like the new direction we're headed in now with Sonic Frontiers, where everybody is taking responsibility for stuff that they did in the past, and they're growing and they're changing, and I hate when everything in video games and shows stay exactly the same forever. But Amy to be a little more of a resemblance of who she was in the past, I think is good. So it's like kind of finding a happy medium. At the end of the day, change is good. I like the idea of Sonic and Amy's relationship moving forward to something that isn't just cat and mouse. Just imagine if Mario Odyssey would have ended with a Mario and Peach wedding. That would have been such an incredible celebration of all things Mario, which is very much a theme of that game. Instead of that, we kind of just go back and revert to what it was, and everything stays the same. And the new Sonic games are actually referencing old ones and moving the characters down paths we've never seen, and having these very goofy characters experience emotions that were only reserved for, Shadow to experience. Like Eggman, for example, has a daughter now that he legitimately cares about. That's so exciting for the future of the franchise. The Sonic story, to me, has always been a huge part of why the fans care. It's been a huge reason why I care, unlike Mario, which doesn't really even have a story. So to be fair, if Mario never changes, it won't be a huge deal to most. I just always yearn for good story and properties I love. It's usually why I love the property in the first place. One of the reasons I love Sonic so much as a kid. Okay, that was a 3-minute tangent. Exactly 3 minutes. Perfect. Everybody that skipped it, welcome back. So, anyway, Amy is here for some reason, and Tails dumps a lot of exposition on us about the Babylonian birds and the extreme gear, and explaining how it works, and Knuckles is like,
I don't need an explanation, it just floats, and that's good enough for me.
And I love that. Knuckles just being a big oaf. Classic. And then Wave comes over, and she makes fun of Tails, and everyone's like, damn, she just clocked him. So then you get to play as Tails and in a race and try to destroy Wave. It's actually quite gratifying after she just laughs at you like that. It was totally rude and uncalled for. Even the Sonic characters are like, damn. After the first stage, it's super city focused, then you go to the next one, and it's all about the forest and nature and the jungle. It's a nice juxtaposition from the last stage. The music too, really high tempo and exciting, great for racing. The level itself, it's a little more boring than the last, but it's good to have these standard courses mixed in, especially after the crazy one that we just had as our first level even. So to go from a crazy first level to a more relaxed second level, I think that's a really good call. This fundamentally makes sense as a second course. After you've mastered the first one, you should get rewarded to fly by this easier one. So after this race, we go to the next one, and we see Knuckles and Storm having a hunk off. Sorry, that sounded bad. They're just both lunkheads, and you race inside an Eggman lava factory, because we all need a Bowser's Castle level, am I right? It's fun. You get a little taste of the power characters, which has always been the most fun for me as a kid. You just get to punch stage hazards and your gauge goes up. Every other character type has to avoid these things, so being Knuckles or Storm gives you the opportunity to be like a bad driver and run into whatever, and it actually helps your cause. Maybe that's why, as a kid, this was my favorite class, because as much as I really talked about how these mechanics are so great, they are very, very loose, and some would say that that's broken. And, maybe it is broken, But to me, that was always part of the fun of the game, that steering is difficult because you're going so fast. So having a character that can just ram into something and it actually helps your cause is huge. So, I mean, even to this day, it's still my favorite to play as the power characters. Something about playing as a heavy always seemed like the most fun to me. In Monkey Ball, you know, give me Gon all day. Yeah, but the lava level, it's fun. It's, you know, it's industrial, it's heavy, it's loud, and it's good after the jungle, or forest that we were just in, because it wasn't a jungle, because we're about to go into the jungle, deeper in the jungle, and Jet comes along and says we're not actually sick and rad, and that he is in fact the sickest and the most rad of us all, which makes Tails super upset, and Tails is like, no, Sonic, let me race and show him that I can make the most extreme gear. And Sonic gives him one of those video game head nods, and we just play as Tails, even though this feels like a good opportunity to play as Sonic. The flying characters, I didn't talk about this earlier, flying characters are fine. The flying on the flying pads doesn't always work super well, and sometimes you have to move more than you're supposed to move. It becomes annoying, but yeah, I mean, the flying characters are fine. But it's another jungle level. It kind of played out already by this point, but I guess the last one was a little more forest than jungle, but the two levels feel very similar, and when the game doesn't offer that many courses in the first place, you kind of get a little frustrated in the course selection at this point. I feel like I'm inside a direct-to-VHS sequel to the movie Tarzan, where he befriends a bunch of people who have hoverboards in this level. So after that level, we put our Chaos Emeralds down, and Jet says some mean stuff to us again, probably says we're ugly and we don't have an annoying voice like him.
Lucky you got this far. It obviously wasn't due to your skill.
It's just crazy to me that Sonic is totally fine with just placing this Chaos Emerald down in an Eggman race. But whatever. We're in this Egypt level now that absolutely rules. You race through the dunes into the temple, and then at the end you get shot out of an arrow onto a set of spoons.
Spoons.
Yeah, I'm not sure why spoons, but it's a weird little tidbit that just amplifies it all. This is their version of Dry Ruins, except it's actually much cooler. You're not just in the desert, you're going through the temple, getting shot out of an arrow at the top of the Colosseum that you started in to finish it off. It's high-flying action from start to finish, and it's a great final race in the Grand Prix. And then, as you enter the final straightaway, it cuts, and we're now in a cutscene, and we see that Wade planted something on Sonic's extreme gear, which forces him to fall off of his board, and Jet wins. And with Jet winning, he puts the emeralds in this tesseract, and that raises an ancient Babylonian city. Cool. And of course, Emerald takes the tesseract filled with emeralds and heads up to the track of treasure of Babylon. And at this point, the very simple story somehow got convoluted, and you just kind of shrug and go, okay, I guess this is all happening. So we jump in Tails' plane and head up to this new world ourselves for one more intense race on Babylonian Gardens, the toughest level by far. It's also really cool because when I was a kid, you really assumed that that last level was the final one, and then you get one more extra level. And it's the coolest theme, a level in the clouds where it's literally falling apart the further you go on. This is where the challenge really comes into play in this hero story. If you don't know this level, you will be falling off. There are no railways in some areas, which results in you having to start at level 1 if your gauge boost was ever past level 1 if you fall off. After it's all said and done, we rescue Amy, who somehow was kidnapped again. I didn't know that that was even possible. And we give the treasure to the Babylonians after beating them because, well, as long as Eggman doesn't have it, I guess it's fine. We earned it fair and square, and they cheated, but okay, sure, that's how it ends. Well, not really, because as soon as you beat the hero story, you unlock the next Babylonian story, where you play as the birds, and now on the nighttime versions of every level, which I love. It's a really inspiring way to tell the same story that you just told from a different perspective without having to play the exact same levels as those characters. They may as well be completely different courses because the only thing that they share is the aesthetic, except for the second one. They really ran out of budget here because it's almost exactly the same as the first. It's funny, in both versions, this level stands out as being the least cool and the most standard racing level. But what I like about the Babylonian story, these courses are more challenging, which is great for someone that breezed right through the hero story. But not only do you unlock the Babylonian story, you now unlock Rouge, Cream, and Shadow. Neat! I really wanted them to have a Lion King 1.5 story with Shadow, Rouge, and Cream just kind of happening in the background of the main story that you unlock after beating the Babylon story. but that never comes to fruition. I'm sure a lot of kids thought that that was a possibility after unlocking them, but it's just a pipe dream from a kid that wanted more courses to play and more interactions with Shadow and Cream together. Also, funny enough, with unlocking Shadow, you get these air shoes for every character, basically making this a Sonic racing game where characters can just use their speed to run. So you kind of do get a Sonic R sequel tucked away in Sonic Riders, if you really want it. That being said, the shoes play exactly like the board, but the mechanic is still working great, even if it does look a little clumsier when you're boosting with some characters and their feet are not moving while you're moving. Like Shadow boosts and he's just holding this chaos energy and he's not moving his feet. It looks a little clumsy, but it's funny, they kind of walked backwards into a Sonic R sequel. Not only do you unlock the Babylonian story, you also unlock mission modes, which we'll get into later. And you unlock the shop, where you can buy other gears, which is really cool for them to add that at all. It feels very much like Sonic Adventure 2 to have a shop like that. And it's run by a Chow. But back on the Babylonian story, basically you just see how Eggman tricks these guys into working for him, and he eventually steals their treasure, as we saw. The story in this game, it's not why we're here. I'm really happy that they really ranked up the difficulty here, and it's for the better because, you know, if I'm just going to stay and play this game and it's just easy and easy for me, I'm not getting anything out of it. So for the Babylonian story to be more difficult and for the stages in this to just be increasingly more difficult, that makes me very happy. Here at NickVez Gaming, we're big fans of things getting increasingly more difficult, as long as it doesn't become annoying, which this doesn't do. You're playing a race, all you have to do is just win the race, which is very fun. If you understand the mechanics, there are multiple ways you can do that. 2 thumbs up. I like the Babylonian story more than the hero story because you're now experienced with the game, you know what you're doing, and you're playing these levels that are an offshoot of ones that you just played. The aesthetic's different and the courses are a little different, but they are similar, but they're different enough to make you feel, the player, like you're experiencing a whole new portion of this world that was just opened up to you. It's very, very fun, and the Babylonian story ranks higher than the hero story for me. And then once you get to the end of the Babylonian story, it's the same. I mean, the same course of events happens as the hero story. You now have this extra level where you're at the Babylonian Guardians and the treasure is unlocked, and you play as Sonic, and you have to destroy the genie that's hiding the treasure. And it's a very straightaway course where you just have to bump into the genie as he's racing in front of you 3 times. And once you do that, the level's over and you beat the game. Sweet, you did it. You unlocked Eggman. Nice. But why are there so many character slots left? I just beat the whole story. Who else is there to even unlock? First, let's go over these 2 asshats. The Eggman henchman bots with the cool backwards hats. Target acquired, same mofos. These are what I like to call hiking up your electric bill characters. Similar to Mewtwo and Melee, play the game for X amount of hours to unlock this guy. I love unlocking characters, and I hate, for the most part, that the idea has gone the way of the dodo. Most of the time, you have to just buy the character, or they'll all be in the game from the jump. Some of my favorite childhood memories come from unlocking characters. But to do it this way, this method of leaving the game on overnight to unlock the characters so the game can be on for X amount of hours, should be left for dead. The green one, you have to have the game on for at least 20 hours. And the red one is 50 hours. 50 hours! That is so annoying. It's even harder when you have to pay your own electric bill too. It's not a problem when you sneakily leave the Gamecube on overnight, when you're not footing the electric bill. But of course, I did leave the cube on overnight to unlock them for you. And unfortunately, I do love playing as the NPC egg robots. It's quite fun. Mario Kart World is onto something with this character roster. You find out that the rest of the unlockable characters are retrieved through mission mode. The missions really are the extent of the post-game after the stories are over, outside of replaying the Grand Prixes and gaining enough rings to unlock the remaining boards in the shop. And it's nice to have a post-game at all, don't get me wrong. It gives the one-player experience way more life, but this is where the game really loses me. However, the music in mission modes, which is really just the menu music, is so funky. Do you mind if a white boy catches a vibe real quick? That was fun, but now let's lock into the unfortunate mission mode. They're really trying to stretch the dollar here. There are no new assets that come with it. You're really playing the same level except with one objective to accomplish, like picking up all the trash or performing enough tricks to pass. It's the same couple tasks over and over again, just on different courses. It becomes repetitive so fast, and I'm fine doing what they ask, but in order to 100% the game, you need to reach gold on each mission, which is such an annoyance. The tasks are not fun to complete on their own as is. Like, I'll do it, but I'm not going to break my back to do it to the 9th degree to reach gold, to unlock the final unlockable character, which is just Supersonic. And he's just OP to the max. He never runs out of boost, and you can use every special ability with him. So, like, it's not even a fun character when it's all said and done. It's also in mission modes when you can unfortunately start to poke holes in the game. They're asking you to do specific tasks that kind of break the game. You're constantly asked to hit the highest jump, and I don't care how close I get to the edge. They just won't give me the second caliber jump for some reason. Like most Sonic games from this era, if you're asked to do something outside of the very basic task of completing the level or finishing the race, you start to get really frustrated because the controls start to fail you more and more, and it's no longer a skill-based issue. It's something that these old games have a lot of, and the kids call it jank. It's just really janky once you get to down to the brass tacks of like having to do a very specific thing, like grinding 8 times in a row, and you realize that the grind feature doesn't really work that well, and the margin of error is so low. Like, I've been mastering my Sonic Riders ability since 5th grade. I should be able to run through these missions no problem. But nope, randomly they'll start to kick my ass for no good reason, and it becomes very annoying. There are specific missions that just don't work, and you have to find a way to beat the game and work around them because they should be working correctly, but they don't. Like this one with Tails as an example, you're supposed to be flying through all these rings consistently, but they're too close together, and the game is actively working against you, and it was not designed to have these rings so close together, so you have to really move your controller in a way that goes against almost everything that you know up until this point about how this works, and it's so annoying, and it becomes just muscle memory and like getting to a point where you know exactly what to do as opposed to like, you know, thinking about it and doing it correctly as if it were a skill-based issue. It's not. It just becomes a memory thing, and it's really annoying. There are 110 missions in the game, and I think there are like 5 archetypes of what type of mission it can be. Performing tricks, flying through rings, punching, grinding. It just becomes annoying so fast, and it unfortunately leaves you with a bit of a sour grapes taste by the end of your playthrough, which is so unfortunate because the racing itself is great. You can always go back and play the Grand Prix, which is just 5 races in a row, or redo the story mode. That is still fun to come back to no matter what. But most likely the last thing you'll do, if you get this far, is these missions. And maybe it's the reason most don't fondly look back on this game, because these missions just take the great vibe away from you, and it just becomes a tedious mess by the end of your time with this game. Oh, and by the time you get to the jet missions, the final missions of the game, man, it's almost like their goal is to have you hate the game by the end. The jank is on full display. You have the tiniest margins of error ever, and that's just to get, like, not even gold. That's just to pass the mission. Like, look at this. How am I even supposed to see where I'm supposed to jump from pipe to pipe here? You're so close to finishing the game forever, and they throw just annoyance your way after you've grinded through these boring missions. The gloves are off at this point. We've approached bad game territory, and it sucks that this is how the game leaves you, annoyed and mad that you tried to unlock everything, and now you just feel like, is this game really even that good? Is the jank surpassing the fond memories that you have? And you have to like go back and remind yourself and replay the racing portions and be like, oh no, wait, this is actually fun. It's just when you isolate it and make it very mini game based like that, it becomes a nightmare. But the gifts they give you when you complete all the missions are pretty awesome. I mean, look at these dudes. You have Knights, Ai, and Ooh La La. This was before we got Sonic Sega All-Stars Racing or Tennis. Yeah, this was a big deal. It was a really radical character roster to show off to your friends once you unlocked everybody. Naturally, I was the first to unlock everybody. One of the only friends who was allowed to have the Gamecube in his room, so that certainly helped. When everyone came over and saw the monkey from Monkey Ball was in there, it was over. Instant cool kid status. Until my one friend, who was a know-it-all, told me that I still hadn't unlocked Supersonic, and then I didn't even believe him that Supersonic was a character. He never unlocked Supersonic either, so I don't know why he thought he was such a prize. After all that, you're done. You've unlocked all the worthy characters, and you can turn the game off now, and then next time you pick it up, you'll be able to play as II from Super Monkey Ball. But I will say this. After the mission mode part of your brain leaves your body, and you remember this game, you will remember it fondly, because of the uniqueness. I don't think it's crazy to say that this is the GameCube's Diddy Kong Racing. While it does not rival Mario Kart like Diddy Kong Racing before it, it holds the same principles. It's a game that's easy to pick up, but hard to master. They made sure you have a killer soundtrack and a great roster, and it finds a way to stand on its own with unique choices that factor into the game design. The one player is lacking in quality like Diddy Kong Racing, and the jank makes itself very noticed in the post-game, but the story modes and the multiplayer make up for the rocky finish. One thing I forgot to mention too, is when you're a kid, and you can pass the controller back and forth to your best friend during the mission modes, it always makes it easier to stomach the bad game design. And it's something I entirely forgot about. Hard to factor that in when I was playing alone. And it was one of the reasons why I look back on the game so fondly. I certainly missed that feeling during this replay. Sonic Riders will always be a mainstay for me and my best friends, and I want to thank Sonic Team for consistently dropping bangers on the GameCube. It means a lot, because that was my childhood console, so to be able to play nothing but good Sonic games in that generation has been fantastic. And, you know, they got their quirks, don't get me wrong, but it really solidified Sonic as being one of my favorite IPs. And if we could get Sonic R music in Sonic Crossworlds while there's an Extreme Gear in that game, I think we're getting close to the ideal Sonic racing game. So yeah, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. We got more videos coming your way. I'm doing a Donkey Kong Bonanza breakdown this week, so make sure to check that out. And yeah, you guys rule.